It only takes a few swipes on Finance TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter before you find content about emergency funds. And that's for a really good reason, because emergency funds are a really key part of having stable finances. And as someone who has had an emergency fund in the past and is currently trying to build it up again, I think this is a really good time to talk about emergency funds and for me to also share how I am trying to save for my emergency fund and take you guys along the journey. So let's start with some basics. An emergency fund is a set amount of money that you put aside specifically to help you in case of an emergency.
Hey, Olga? Yeah. You're fired.
So this money is there to help you when you're in a pinch. So for example, let's say you lose your job and you're looking for a job for several months. An emergency fund will help you in that case. Or if you need to pay out of pocket for some unexpected medical costs, an emergency fund will really help you in that case as well. So you can't use your emergency fund to pay for your vacation, you can't use it to buy something on sale, and you definitely can't use it to invest either. When it comes to how much you need to save up in your emergency fund, it really does depend, because there is no one size fits all. But there is a rule of thumb that you can follow as a guide, especially if you're starting out. And the rule of thumb is you need to save 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in your emergency fund. And the idea here is if you were to lose your job or lose your income for whatever reason, you'd be able to still pay your bills, still pay your rent, still pay for your transport, all of that stuff that you need to survive for 3 to 6 months. And that is a really good amount of time for you to figure something out or to find a new job, for example. But again, this is just a rule of thumb and it's a really great place to start at. But if you feel that 3 months isn't enough or 6 months isn't enough, then you can absolutely save more than that. It's really about saving an amount of money that will make you feel secure and protected from the financial shocks that we all go through in life. And whatever will give you the peace of mind that you need, that is the amount of money that you need to try and save up. I want to share quickly why I'm building up my emergency fund from scratch, because as someone who loves to talk about why we should be saving up for emergency funds and why they're so important, I think it's nice to also illustrate how they actually help you in real life and give like a real life scenario. So last year, I spent the entire year unemployed. And during that time, I was living off of my savings. So I was literally living off of my emergency fund. So it was doing what it is supposed to do pretty much last year, which means I ended up depleting it at some point because I spent the entire year unemployed and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life next. So that's a big reason why my emergency fund got depleted. The second reason is I moved to the Netherlands, and what this has done is my expenses have pretty much like more than doubled from what I was spending previously. So instead of needing the 100,000 rands that I needed when I was in South Africa as my 1-year emergency fund, in the Netherlands, I need 24,000 euros as my emergency fund to cover a year worth of living expenses, and that is 500,000 rand. So it's a very different need that I have now within the context of the country that I live in. So when you're thinking about saving up for your emergency fund, the question of where do you keep all of this money comes up. And there's one thing that you really have to keep in mind when you're thinking about this, and that is your emergency fund has to be easily accessible. And when I say easily, I mean if something happens literally right now, you can transfer the money and pay for it right now. You don't have to now give a notice to your bank. You know those savings accounts where you have to give 24-hour notice to the bank, 48-hour notice before you can access your money? Do not put your money in those accounts because that is not easily accessible. You need to be able to withdraw that money when you need it in the moment that you need it. So this means that you most likely won't get a high interest rate in your savings account. And that's fine because we're not really trying to make money out of this emergency fund. We just want to preserve it so that it can protect the rest of our finances. So a simple savings account will be more than enough for most people. So we're obviously 10 months into 2024, and I have been saving for my emergency fund since January this year, because this is my main and only financial goal this year. So I'm not investing, I'm not doing anything else except saving for my emergency fund. And that's why I've been able to save about 11,000 euros. So I'm at the halfway mark for my goal. And this is like really exciting because it takes so long to save up this money. It took me 10 months to save up this money. And a big reason why I'm able to do this is because I am able to live below my means, which brings me to the question of, how do you even start saving for an emergency fund if you don't have the money right now? And the answer to that will be, first of all, you have to get a really good picture of where your finances are. So like, do you know what's coming in? Do you know what's going out? What you're spending your money on? All of that. And then once you have the good picture of that, then you know whether or not you're actually able to live below your means or not. So you have to go through and like actually budget and prioritize your spending, and then decide, okay, am I actually able to live below my means, or are my needs literally all I can afford with the money that I'm bringing in right now? And if your needs are all you can afford and there's literally nothing you can put aside, then you have to start thinking about, how do I start making more money? I am a big fan of side hustles, and I'm also a huge fan of job hopping, getting a raise, or even switching careers completely, which is something that I did a few years ago to help me with my finances. So those are some of the things I think that are really important to just talk about and think about when it comes to emergency funds. And I wanted to share this information again. I know I've talked about this before, but I will talk about this every single year until I die, because I know there'll always be someone who can actually take a lesson out of this and actually implement it and start doing something better with their finances. So let me know in the comments if you already have an emergency fund, how much you have, how many months can you survive without an income? Do you think 12 months is a lot? Because that's every time I tell people that like I'm trying to save up for 12 months, it feels like a lot. But for me, that's literally the amount that in my mind makes me feel at peace and just calm about the future. So let me know if you think I'm overthinking it and maybe I should start like investing sooner. But until I see you on my next video, make sure you like this video so that they can recommend you more videos from me. Make sure you subscribe and get notifications on as well so you can know when I post new videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye.